everyone. Thanks for joining me again today. So since it's 5 o'clock, we will go ahead and get started. So first I'll introduce myself. My name is Soski. I'm a naturopathic physician here in Oregon, practicing also in California. And I'm not going to get into what naturopathic medicine is today because I have a lot other stuff to cover. So as most of everybody knows, it's really hard to miss. There's a lot going on in society right now, and it really makes me happy. There are a ton of people getting involved in injustice work, and it's something that I'm passionate about. And so today we're going to be doing something a little bit different with these cooking shows, and I'm actually going to add this, and probably will for the rest of every show that I do, but we'll be sponsoring a different organization with every video. I offer this content for free. I get no money and no compensation, so I ask if you value these videos that I've been putting together these weeks, please take that interest and that value and donate it forward to another organization. So today I'm going to be focusing on the NAACP. The NAACP has a legal defense education fund that was founded in 1957 by Thurgood Marshall, and they are America's premier legal organization fighting for racial justice. And through litigation, advocacy, and public education, the LDF seeks structural changes to expand democracy, eliminate disparities, and achieve racial justice in a society that fulfills the promise of equality for all Americans. LDF also defends the gains and protections won over the last 75 years of civil rights struggle and works to improve the quality and diversity of judicial and executive appointments. So I feel like this is very relevant right now to what's going on. So if you have it in your heart and you have a couple dollars to spare, please consider donating to this awesome organization in honor of me doing this post. So thanks. Also, on a separate note from the cooking class, again, if you know me personally, you know this is true. I have worked in social action my whole life, ever since I was a kid, and so this movement is really important to me, and I want to help in whatever way I can. Now, I work with immunocompromised patients on a day-to-day basis, so I do not feel it's ethical for me to go out into mass gatherings right now, given the pandemic that's going on. So I am not able to go and protest the way that I would like to. So in support of the protesters and in support of Black and Indigenous people of color, I am offering what I can, which is my time and my expertise. So if anybody out there, a Black or Indigenous person of color or a white ally who's protesting wants access to naturopathic medicine, I'm offering a free first patient visit and reduced rate follow-ups. So please, if you have any interest in, please take me up on that. Also, if you get sick for whatever reason because you're mass gathering, please let me know. I have tons of ways of supporting you, and I would love to do that. So let your friends know this is open to anybody. So I'll just end with that. So with that, on that note, thank you guys for coming, and let's get started. So today we're going to be making a black bean and pumpkin Mexican lasagna, and it's called Mexican lasagna because instead of lasagna noodles, we're going to be using tortillas. And this is a really good recipe. It's one of my favorites. I actually have been craving this for a while now, and so I'm really excited to do it on the show. It comes and is adapted from Thug Kitchen. Again, this was one of the first recipes I did for this cooking show series. Came from Thug Kitchen, and this is oh, I actually grabbed the wrong one, but that's okay. This is their normal one, but this specific recipe comes from their Party Grub book. So this is the original, but the other one's the Party Grub. So check it out. Thug Kitchen is awesome. All right, so let's get started. And again, just a reminder, if you're interested in donating, there's a donate button at the bottom of this video. And let's see how much we can get donated at the end of the video, by the end of when I'm done cooking. All right, so let's get started. I'm gonna first start by preheating the oven. And I believe that we need to preheat it to 375 degrees. All right, so we're gonna get chopping. So we're going to go back. I know last week I was a bit overwhelmed and was really busy, so I didn't get to prepare a lot. But this week we have a video of our vegetable of the week. So the vegetable of the week today is pumpkin. Since it's a pumpkin black bean lasagna, I thought that would be appropriate. And also I chose pumpkin because orange is the color of change and revolution. It's one of the colors. There's a couple colors of revolution, but orange is one of them. And so I thought it would be appropriate to pick a orange vegetable for what's going on right now. So pumpkin, while I'm saying it's a vegetable of the week, it is actually classified as a fruit. So because it has seeds, although again, wouldn't put it in fruit salad. And it is part of the, I'm totally going to butcher this, but it's part of the Cucurbitaceae family. Say that 5 times fast. So I'm going to get more to pumpkin in a second, but first we're just going to chop some onion. So I'm just taking a good sized yellow onion. And you kind of want to chop things a little bit small. The original recipe says about the size of a black bean, so that you kind of have little bits together. But it doesn't, if for whatever reason making onion pieces that small makes you uncomfortable, you can make bigger pieces. It doesn't really matter. So we're going to go ahead and chop onion. And again, a tip when you're chopping onion, if onion makes you cry, immediately after you chop the onion, rinse your hands and your knife. Oftentimes the juices of the onion on our hands and our fingers in contact will make that worse. So more about pumpkin. It is part of the winter squash family as opposed to the summer squash family. So it's in the same family as butter squash, acorn squash, kabocha, delicata, all those yummy squashes that we think about in winter or that come out in fall. Now today I'm going to be using a canned variety. Now the book, if you were to get the actual recipe, it makes a very funny statement of this. If you're using canned pumpkin, make sure you use plain canned pumpkin, not pumpkin spiced pumpkin. You'll have a very different flavor in the end, and I don't know that it will come out that great. So use just plain unflavored pumpkin for this. Pumpkin is native to North America, so it is a local variety of squash. And in the U.S., we call it pumpkin, and that usually refers to a specific type. But in other regions of squash, and they kind of separate that out. So we're going to finish chopping this onion. Also, too, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the chat box, and I'll be monitoring that. So please do add anything, comments, questions, anything. All right, next is we're going to cut some red pepper. Red pepper is a great source of vitamin C, really good for your immune system, and it's super tasty. So some more nutritional facts about pumpkin. It is a really, really awesome source of vitamin A. It has more than your daily, in a serving, there's more than your daily requirement of vitamin A. It's also a great source of vitamin C and potassium, copper, manganese, vitamin B12, vitamin E, and iron. So lots of nutrients. It's awesome. It's also a rich source of antioxidants. So some of the antioxidants that it has are alpha and beta carotene, which gets converted to vitamin A in your body. Beta cryptoxanthins, and then lutein and zeaxanthins. So those are some awesome, those phytonutrients. I bring it up every week. So those are some awesome phytonutrients that are in pumpkin. Now, those phytonutrients really help because they help improve your immune system. They're great for reducing risk of chronic disease and cancer, reducing risk of heart health, heart disease, so really great for your heart. Really great for your skin and your eyes, that vitamin A and the beta carotenes. It's also very nutrient dense and very low calorie. So it's a great food if you're trying to lose weight to incorporate into your diet. It's actually almost 90% water, actually over 90% water. And so it's a great vegetable to incorporate if you're trying to hydrate via your food. It also has a lot of fiber, which is really good for reducing cholesterol, again, going along with the healthy heart piece. So pumpkin really is an awesome, awesome vegetable. Great for your health. All right, we got some red pepper. So today I'm trying to use as many colors as possible. So we got the yellow, white, and the onion, red and the red pepper, and then purple and some purple cabbage that I needed to use up, and green and some zucchini. And zucchini, on the other hand, is an example of a summer squash instead of a winter squash. Cut the ends off here. So the difference between summer and winter squash, as you can imagine from the name, is when they're ripe, usually, or when they're in season. So zucchini and yellow summer squash are usually ripe in summer or the end of, they're not really coming out yet. So yeah, so usually in the end of summer or in warmer climates, things grow differently. And then winter squash is usually in the fall. Like we think of pumpkins around Halloween time and Thanksgiving. And winter squash oftentimes have harder outside. Summer squash has a very thin outside that you can eat very easily. Winter squash oftentimes has a thicker outside or a thicker peel that sometimes you can eat if you cook it really well, and sometimes you wouldn't want to eat, depending on how thick it is or how woody it gets. All right, so we got our zucchini all chopped up. Is our cabbage. So some other awesome vegetables that would go really well in this recipe is fennel, and mushrooms would be really awesome. Broccoli would be great. Carrots, eggplants, asparagus would be really good. I can't really think of a vegetable that would not go well. So we're going to cut this. So just a little bit more on pumpkin. So not only is the flesh or the inside of, I guess it's not so much the inside, but the flesh of the pumpkin is edible, but the seeds are also edible. And so I know most people have heard of pumpkin seeds. They're also called pepitas, and they are super, super nutritious in their own right. And so they're a really great source of fiber. Really good fats, also lots of zinc and magnesium. Zinc is really, really good for your immune system. Magnesium helps every function in your body. You really would not function without magnesium. And also lots of great antioxidants. So for all those reasons, like I said, it's really good for the immune system, really good for heart health, really good for protecting against certain cancers. And so eating the seeds and the flesh together, you can maximize all of that healthy nutrition. All right, we got our cabbage all chopped up. It's kind of a lot of cabbage. We'll see if we use it all. Okay, next we're going to mince a jalapeno. So if you want to make your dish spicier, leave the seeds and the pith. The pith is kind of this white part in the inside. So if you want your dish to be spicier, you include that. And if you want it to be a little less spicy, like me, I'm not a huge spice person. I'm a gringa, so there you go. You take the seeds and the pith out, and you'll still get a little spice from the outside of the pepper. So you can do this, I'm doing this with a knife, but you can also do it with a spoon. It's probably a little safer using a spoon so you don't poke yourself. And then we're just gonna dice that up really small. And the reason you do that is just because jalapenos are pretty small and they can be spicy. You wanna spread that out throughout the dish instead of just getting one big piece every so often. You make it smaller so you can get small pieces scattered throughout. That up. All right, and next we're gonna do some garlic. Now, I got a request from some people who are watching the video, these videos. They said that I peel garlic really quickly, and they thought I did it ahead of time, but I actually don't. So I'm going to share my tips as to how I peel garlic. So, so I take the clove, and there's a couple ways to do this. So, one way is if it's not too hard, is you can put it on the cutting board and kind of press on it. And what you're getting for is it kind of pops, and you'll feel that. And then what happens is, as you see, it kind of makes the skin kind of just flake off. And then it just peels off really easily. So that's one way. Another way is, if for whatever reason you're doing that and it's really hard and it's hurting your hand, you can take a big chef's knife and use the flat end right here. Put that on your garlic and then kind of push down that way. And so it doesn't hurt your hand. And when you do that, again, it just, the skin peels right off. And then a third way, with some of the smaller ones, sometimes this works. So sometimes they're too small, and so I can't really get like because of the knife edge or whatever, I can't really get the knife over it. Or when I push into it, it just pushes into my hand because it's so small. What you can do is I kind of have this trick where I push and twist. So if you kind of push into it and twist it, and again, it does the same thing where the outside just kind of falls right off. So those are my 3 tricks to getting garlic to peel really easily. Some people have a trick where they put it in a jar and shake it up, and that works for them. I've never gotten that method to work. So I will say this isn't a foolproof method. Sometimes you get those tricky garlic cloves that the skin just wants to stick for whatever reason. So So for this recipe, there's a couple different parts of it that use garlic. So I'm gonna go on the heavier side of garlic because garlic is so good for so many things. Great for the immune system. Great for it's antimicrobial. It's anti-inflammatory. So I'm gonna go. I said 3 to 5. The original I think called for 3, and I said 3 to 6 because I think you could double the amount of garlic. And then there's 2 cloves of garlic that go in the sauce part. So we're gonna do 2 separate little piles of garlic. Again, I'll just say if you have any questions or comments, feel free to throw them in the comment section. And if you're just tuning in and you're interested in supporting a really awesome organization, today I'm dedicating today's show to the NAACP's Legal and Education Defense Fund. Legal Defense and Education Fund. So please, if you have it in your hearts and you have a couple extra dollars to spend, please consider donating to that organization in honor of today's cooking show. And we're going to see how much we can donate by the end of this. So I'm just using a garlic press to chop this garlic up. If you don't have a garlic press, you can also mince it. This just makes it easier, quicker. So here we have our garlic for our veggies. And then we're going to do our garlic for our sauce. And then we're going to keep our garlic press because I'm going to show you guys my my recipe for making guacamole afterwards when this is all in the oven. So we're going to put that to the side. And I'm just going to rinse my hands, and then we're going to head to the stove. Right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the sauce because it's going to simmer. So it'll simmer while we make our other veggies. So essentially all you do for the sauce is you mix all the ingredients into a small saucepan, and then you bring it to a simmer, and just a simmer, you don't want it to boil, and then you're going to simmer it for about 15 minutes. So we're going to start with 1.5 cups of vegetable broth. So I'm using I didn't have time to make vegetable broth ahead of time, but so I'm going to use just a canned or a boxed vegetable broth, but you can use boxed, you can use homemade. There's also vegetable broth powders you can make or bouillon that you can mix. So there's lots of options for vegetable broth. So we're going to do 1.5 cups of vegetable broth. Now, if you want to make vegetable broth at home, a really awesome way to do it, and especially since I talk about composting all the time, is if you take your all the bits. So let's say, for example, we cut off. I'm gonna go back over here and grab some of these. So like we cut off the end of the onion or kind of the core out of the cabbage. What you can do is you can collect all these things into a bag. Some people keep them in the freezer just so they collect over time without going bad, or you can do it in the fridge if you kind of collect a lot of vegetables at once. And you make a stock out of these pieces. So you boil them in a big quart of water and boil them for a few hours, and then you can strain that off. Now what that does is instead of throwing this stuff away, there's still a lot of awesome nutrients in these little bits that we end up throwing away because they're not super edible. And when you boil them, you get all those awesome nutrients into your stock, and so you don't waste them, and so you can use it for other meals. So making your own vegetable stock from like the vegetable bits is a great way to reuse vegetables or not reuse them, but maximize them, and also then you can make your own stock. And once you have stock, you can freeze it and keep it for however long you need. So we're going to get this heating. All right, so we have our vegetable broth, and then next comes 1.5 cups of plain tomato sauce. Actually, we're going to switch this to a bigger pan. So the recipe calls for plain tomato sauce, no flavoring, no extra anything. I'm going to use today just some diced canned tomatoes. So it's going to be 1.5 cups. So that's about 1 can's worth. So we're gonna add that in. Great. And then next is 2 cloves of garlic mince. So that's what we have over here. So we're gonna throw that in. Then next is 3 tablespoons of chili powder. Great. Next is 2 tablespoons of lime. All right, so we got that ready. We're gonna mix this in. And then what else we got? Okay, so 1 tablespoon of tamari or soy sauce. So just a quick side note, the difference between tamari and soy sauce is the gluten content. So in regular soy sauce, there is gluten, but in tamari, it is a gluten-free soy sauce. There's still soy in soy sauce, obviously. So if you're soy-free and gluten-free, what you can use to replace it is something called coconut aminos. And that is a soy-free and gluten-free replacement for soy sauce. It has a slightly different flavor. It's a little bit sweeter than soy sauce, but it still gets that salty umami. Okay, and then we have next 2 things is 1/2 teaspoon of ground cumin and 1/2 teaspoon of dried oregano. And this is pretty awesome. So I've been growing oregano in my garden for quite some time. It loves it where it's at in my garden, so it's very prolific. I get to harvest a new batch every year. It even blooms I get to harvest several times a year, and so I always have a nice supply of fresh oregano, or it's dried, but fresh from my garden to use. So that's what we're going to use today. All right, and so that's all our ingredients for our sauce. So now we're just gonna mix all that in and bring it to a simmer and then reduce it and just kind of let it sit there while we cook the rest of our veggies. All right, so for our veggies, or for the filling, I guess, not just the veggies, but for the filling. So we're going to start by heating up some olive oil in a pan. You can be generous with the oil, because it's the only oil that goes in it. And so the way this recipe works is there's kind of a couple different stages. So first you're going to cook the veggies, then you're going to mix in the beans and the corn and the garlic and the jalapeno, and then you're going to mix in the seasoning and the pumpkin. And then that makes your filling for your lasagna, and then we're going to layer it with the tortillas. So again, if you have any questions as we're cooking, please feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. Our sauce is just starting to simmer. So first part of the veggies is we're going to do that in stages 2. So we're going to throw in the onion first, cook up the onion, and then throw in the other veggies. So you're just going to cook the onions a little bit before you throw the rest of the veggies in. And I'm actually going to throw the cabbage in first because cabbage, this cabbage is pretty thick, so it's going to take a little bit longer for it to cook than the peppers and the zucchini. So I'm going to throw it in first. If you're using a thinner cabbage or using other veggies, that may time differently, but that's what I'm going to do today. Stir the sauce a little bit. All right, so let's throw the rest of our veggies in. Like that. Now, as we do this, I'm going to check and see how much we've gotten any donations yet. Nope, no donations yet, but that's okay. A couple friends have donated earlier, so shout out to them. Thanks for supporting. Again, if you guys have a couple extra dollars, even if it's $5, I'm for you to share. It doesn't have to be this organization, but I think it's really important to use those who have privilege to use it to help those who don't. That's just a personal belief of mine. I was born into this body, into this existence, into this family, in a very, very privileged life, and I hope that I can use my privilege to help others who are less fortunate than myself. I hope you find it in your heart to do the same. Doesn't have to be with money or for this video, but just in whatever way you see fit. Alright, so we're going to cook this for just a couple more minutes. And we're going to add the garlic. I'm going to grab the corn out of the freezer. So today I'm using some frozen corn, and so I didn't, and not fresh corn, since I wasn't able to find any in the source. So we're going to use frozen. Oh, I just heard we got a $20 donation, so thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. You think we can get at least to $100 by the end of the video, guys? All right, so now that our veggies are cooking, we're time to throw in the next stage. So that's going to be the garlic and onion, or sorry, garlic and jalapeno. If anybody is cooking along with me, you can agree that this smells incredible, and I'm so excited. So I'm just working on getting all that garlic evenly mixed in. All right. And then next, we're going to throw in 3 cups of cooked beans. So you could make that ahead of time from dried beans, or 3 cups is about 2 cans of beans. So we're going to throw in 2 cans of black beans. Now I pre-rinse these. I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you rinse your beans when they sit in the can, and also when you cook them, you want to rinse them. When you rinse them, it gets rid of all those, a lot of those, the things in the beans that make you fart, essentially. So if you rinse your beans and you cook them really well, the less chance you're going to get flatulence and bloating with your beans. Oh, we got another donation. Awesome. So now we're up to $40. Let's see if we can get to 100 by the end of this. Okay, so we got our beans in there, and then next we're gonna mix in our corn. And how much corn are we gonna do? So we're gonna just do 1 cup of corn. So this dish in general is full of fiber. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of things of fiber. Beans have lots of fiber, corn lots of fiber, pumpkin lots of fiber, vegetables lots of fiber. Really, really good. And fiber is awesome for your gut health, for your mental health also, because when your gut health is good, your mental health is good. Or that your gut health at least impacts your mental health, not necessarily that if one is good, the other is good, but they definitely impact each other. And it gives you really good poops, and really good poops are healthy. Alright, now that that's all mixed in. Alright, so the next part is to add our seasonings and our pumpkin. So we are going to add 1.5 teaspoons of chili powder, and then half a teaspoon of cumin and half a teaspoon of smoked paprika. So let's start with the chili powder. And then smoked paprika. And then some cumin. And I'm going to put the cumin over here because we're going to use it for the guacamole. And then also half a teaspoon of salt. And I would be generous with that half a teaspoon of salt. In fact, I would actually add a little bit more than that. And then, so we got that. And then pumpkin puree. So I have just some organic pumpkin puree here. No spices. The pumpkin spice one will not work. So we need 1.5 cups, and so that's essentially about 1 can. So we're going to dump in 1 can. It's getting warm over here between the stove and the oven. All right. That, and lastly is some lime juice and maple syrup. So we're going to do 1 tablespoon of lime juice and 2 teaspoons of maple syrup. All right, and then we're just going to mix that all in until it gets warm. Looking really good. So now the filling of our lasagna is all done. just going to mix it really thoroughly because I just dumped all the spices in one spot and I want to make sure they get spread out everywhere. Again, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section. All right, and we're ready to build our lasagna. So you're going to take everything off the heat, and you're going to take a 9 by 13 inch baking dish. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take about 1/3 of a cup, or sorry, 3/4 of a cup of our sauce and spread it out on the bottom of the pan. And then we're going to put 1 layer of tortillas. So I'm using corn tortillas, but you're welcome to use flour. I try to make my meals as gluten-free as possible, so I'm going to use corn. Now, just a note on corn is, in my opinion, it's really, same with the kernel corn and same with this, it's really important, in my opinion, to buy organic corn products. Corn is one of the most genetically modified products out there, also in terms of soy. Not just in terms of the production, or not just in terms of the things that they make with the corn, but even those that are consumed by us is genetically modified. So, in my opinion, I think it's best to get organic corn to ensure that you don't get any pesticides in your few pesticides in your food. So you're just going to do 1 layer. I used 3 corn tortillas about that size, 2, and then I split it in half, and then did 1 and a half and a half. I'm going to show you, it doesn't all fall apart like that. And you'll have holes, and that's okay. You just do your best. If you really want to be anal about it, you can break another one up and fill in the holes, but I'm just going to leave the holes. So now I'm going to take about half of my mixture, because we're going to do about 2 layers. So I'm going to take half of my mixture and mix it evenly as possible on top of this. Alright, so we got 1 layer. And then we're going to do another layer of tortillas. And then we're going to do some more sauce, about 1 cup of sauce. Spread out a little bit. And then we're going to do our next layer of filling. possible. And then we are going to do our last layer of tortillas. And since I have one more left in the package, I'll break it up and I'll kind of fill in some of these holes. Since I have an extra. And then you do the rest of your sauce. All right. So I'm going to get this out of the way so you can kind of see. I can't really tilt it, but you can see this is essentially what it looks like. So we got some layers of all that in there. Now you're going to cover it with foil. So now we're going to put it in the oven for about 15 minutes, covered, and then take the cover off and then cook it for the last 10 minutes. So this recipe is going to take a little bit more than an hour, but I also spent some time in the beginning talking. Now we're going to put it in the oven. All right, so while that's in the oven, I'm going to show you guys how to make my favorite guacamole recipe. So we're going to head back over here. All right. So, guacamole. Let me see if I can actually see there. All right, so let's get all of our ingredients out. Let's grab our juice paste and salt. All right, so we're gonna start with some avocados. Now these were generously donated by my uncle in San Diego. He sent me some avocados, and these are from his property. He has a bunch of avocado trees. So, in total, this is gonna in the oven. This is going to take about 25 minutes, 15 minutes covered, 10 minutes uncovered. So we're gonna. These have sat around for a little bit, so they got kind of bad. So I usually start with about 2 avocados. In the end, I will ultimately have about 2 avocados worth of avocados after I cut off all the bad parts from the 3 avocados. So avocados are awesome. They are a really great source of fiber, a really, really healthy source of fat also, and they have protein. So I grew up in California. Avocados are just in my blood. I love them. I think they are one of the healthiest foods. And I'll always pay extra for it. I think avocados are also, or guacamole specifically, not avocados, but guacamole is a really great way to introduce kids to healthy food, especially avocados, which are green and kind of weird and maybe taste weird on their own, but guacamole is so delicious. And oftentimes it can be a great way to introduce kids to the concept of eating healthy and of avocados in general, because it's fun, you get to dip stuff in it, it's tasty, it's salty, it's limey, and kids often like it. I'm getting absolutely messy doing this, and I love it. If you're making this for other people, you might want to not get your hands so into the guacamole or into the avocado. These ones are just kind of falling apart because they're so ripe. So I have a hard time. My hands are clean. But if you're making this for other people, you may want to be a little bit better at not getting all of your germs on them. All right. So we got avocado. I'm just going to rinse my hands real quick because they're so messy. Usually I would lick my fingers, but today we're not going to do that. All right, and then the next part is to mash avocado. So some people like chunks in their guacamole, which is totally great, in which case you don't have to mash it so much. If you like a thinner, more smooth guacamole, then you can mash it even more. The more ripe your avocados are, the easier this is going to be for sure. So I just use this with the broad end of a spoon. The bigger the spoon, the better. This is actually kind of a medium-sized spoon. You could use a bigger one. It would make it go quicker, easier. But I also like mine a little bit chunky, so I'm going to not mix it so much. So now our avocado's all mixed up. Next is some tomato. So I'm gonna get this we'll use this cabbage for something else. All right, so the next thing we're gonna cut up is tomato. You can use any kind of tomato for this. Roma is oftentimes used in guacamole. I think Roma tomatoes can be a little mealy sometimes and also not as flavorful as other types of tomatoes. So I like to use, my preference is heirloom tomatoes because I think the flavor is just so much more potent and unique. And so I like using heirlooms, but cherry tomatoes even work, or a beefsteak tomato. Anything really works, and it's just personal preference. So I'm going to use an heirloom tomato. Tomatoes are a really great source of something called lycopene. It's one of the things that is in red fruits and vegetables, so like watermelon's high in lycopene. It's really, really good for men's health, for prostate health. Really awesome antioxidants. So I like kind of medium-sized chunks, so not super small, but also not big chunks of tomato. So if you like bigger chunks, throw in bigger chunks. If you can cut them as big or small as you want. Also, I mean, tomato is not necessary for guacamole, so if you don't like tomato or for whatever reason, or you can't eat it, then just feel free to leave this part out. I think it's a great addition to guacamole. And then just another tip for cutting tomatoes, I like using a serrated knife for tomatoes because it kind of cuts through the skin easier and quicker, so you don't just cut into it and smush it everywhere, because sometimes that happens, especially if your knife isn't super, super sharp and doesn't cut through the skin immediately. You just end up having a bunch of squished tomato. So I like using a serrated knife for cutting tomato for that reason, because I think it cuts it easier. Tomato is also letting me know that I have a cut on my finger because it burns right now. All right, so our tomatoes all done, so we're going to throw that into our guacamole. Next, we're going to chop up some red onion. So I use about 1/4 of a regular size red onion, but if you have a smaller onion, you can use half too, or if you like more onion, you can use more onion. And I also, for guacamole, I like making my onion pieces really small because I think it raw onion is really potent. And so I like spreading that out and making it small and not so you just get like a chunk of red onion in your mouth. That's how I like doing it. Throw that in there. And then next we're going to add a lime. So I like starting with the juice of one whole lime. Sometimes it needs more, and so I like having a second lime handy just in case I want to add more. But I usually just start with one. So we've got our lime in there. Next is our garlic. So here I can show you the push method. So push it and turn it. Too violent or too aggressive with that. So I do about 2 cloves of garlic. In recipes that call for raw garlic, I don't usually increase the amount like I do when there's cooked garlic because raw garlic can be actually really spicy, and if you add too much, it can overpower a dish. Unlike when you cook it, it takes a lot more to overpower a dish. But when it's raw, it's really easy. So I usually don't increase the amount of raw garlic in a recipe. All right, so we have our garlic. Last is cumin, salt, and pepper, and I think this is to taste. I never usually measure the cumin. I do, I don't know, let's see, 1, 2, 3, just a few shakes. For the salt, I do a couple pinches, knowing that I can always add more salt, but it's harder to take it out. All right, so now we're gonna take a pause from our guacamole, and I'm gonna pull the tin foil or the aluminum foil off the thing to uncover it, and we're gonna cook it for a couple more minutes. So just do this carefully because it's hot. And we're gonna set a timer for 10 minutes. Oh, lastly is some black pepper. And then mix it all up. All right, now we're gonna taste it and see if it needs anything else. More lime, in my opinion. All right, better. All right, I'm gonna just quickly clean some of this this area up. So I'm gonna take this out of the oven. I can bring it here to show you guys. Talk amongst yourselves. Feel free to leave again any comments, questions in the comment section, and I'll happily answer them. we are all ready. So in the last final moments, I just want to say thank you guys for joining me again. Please, if you find it in your heart to donate, please do. There are many, many organizations out there, not just this one, that could use all the support, especially right now. A lot of the protesters are being arrested and jailed, and a lot of them are people who are low income and don't have funds to get out of jail. So there are funds out there you can donate to. There are other organizations out there who are working to end systemic racism in one form or another, and I highly encourage you you check those out. As a white person who grew up with a ton of privilege, you know, I'm a doctor to start. I grew up middle class. I never had to worry about whether or not I had a roof over my head or food on my plate. You can see my kitchen, it's beautiful. I live this incredibly blessed life, and all I want to do is to help those who are less fortunate than me in any way possible. So please help me in that, in donating if you can. There are other ways to get involved. You can write your senators, you can write your elected officials on topics that you're really passionate about. There's really some way to get involved for everybody. It doesn't have to be money, it can be time, it can be as simple as a kind gesture to a neighbor. There's really so many ways that we can bring a lot of love and stop hate in the world. So I really encourage you today, especially with everything that's going on, but every day, because this isn't just an issue that's affecting us right now. It's affected us for so many years, and will this isn't over. A lot of what's going on makes me really happy, because this is a huge movement, and a lot of people are getting involved, and it seems like there's a lot of change being affected, but we have so far to go from where we are today. And so please contribute in whichever way you can, because we are all humans and we are all people, and none of us are better than others, and those who have been mistreated should know that, and should feel that in our actions, not just in our words. So I really encourage you guys to join me in this cause. All right, so we just have a couple more minutes. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments. Since we do have a couple minutes, maybe I'll take a couple seconds to introduce what naturopathic medicine is to you. If for those who don't know, this is the medicine that I practice, and it's more of a paradigm of medicine. So you have conventional medicine, which is who you think of when you go to the doctor, and they kind of see the human body as parts. So if you have issues with your heart, you go to the cardiologist. You have issues with your leg, you go to the orthopedic, and they kind of separate it out. So what naturopathic does is they try to look at the person as a whole and say, okay, you have some digestive issues going on, you have anxiety going on, you have insomnia going on. Now these are all different things, but what's the underlying root cause of all of that? What ties them all together? Because you are not a system of parts or individual parts. You are a dynamic system, and every part of your body interacts and could not exist without the other. So in naturopathic medicine, we aim to treat the whole person and treat the root cause. Another thing is we focus a lot on prevention. Our medical education looks a lot, in addition, our medical education looks very much similar to conventional medicine, in that it's a 4 or 5 year program. The first 2 years are basic science, where you learn anatomy, physiology. We also learn pharmacology, but in addition to all of that, we learn botanical medicine, nutrition, lifestyle, homeopathy, physical medicine, similar to chiropractic, and a whole slew of other modalities to really bring a huge toolbox to a healing process with somebody. And so I believe this medicine is beautiful. I don't believe that our medicine is better than conventional medicine. I think there's a time and place for both, but especially for folks who have felt like the conventional system just doesn't have a lot of options for them, or they ran out of options, or they feel like they're just getting medication thrown at them that's just patching up symptoms instead of treating the cause. I think naturopathic can be a beautiful a beautiful medicine to bring in to help achieve true healing. So if you're interested at all in naturopathic medicine, please let me know. I do see patients both in Oregon and California. I have a huge referral network across the country, so if you're anywhere else, I can set you up with a great doctor in your area. And I think our medicine is really awesome. So that's what naturopathic medicine is. So we just have 1 minute. And in my last minute, I want to give a huge shout out to my cousin, Getty Steinman. She's commented on here, but she's also been behind the scenes helping me with the production of all this. So a huge shout out to her. Her and I have teamed up to kind of make this a little bit more legit and do some prep ahead of time, and she's been helping me moderate the chat box and all that too. So thank you, Yetzi, for helping me out today and always. All right, so this is just about done. It was like 30 seconds. So we're gonna pull this out. As you can, I don't know if you can tell, but it's still sizzling hot, so I'm not going to cut into it quite yet. But theoretically, if I was going to serve this, I'd cut a big chunk, serve it with some guacamole, serve it with some awesome organic salsa that I picked up at the store, and maybe even a small salad. So thank you all for tuning in today. Thank you all for your support. Thank you to those who donated. If you have any interest in donating, you can do it after the video is over too. There will be a link. And stay tuned to next week and see what I'll cook up. So thank y'all. Take care and good night.